Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 8 of Quattroporte, the review series for Gran Turismo 6's lineup of sports and super saloons. And in this episode we're featuring essentially the king of the category, the Mercedes C63 AMG, which is both the most powerful and fastest super saloon in the game, at least in a straight line. Now, as I said, it's the most powerful super saloon, so unsurprisingly it has a very impressive spec. The engine, when fully tuned, is a turbocharged 6.2 litre V8. It drives the rear wheels in typical Mercedes fashion, produces 1,049 horsepower and 809 pound-feet of torque. Now, perhaps surprisingly for a luxury saloon, albeit not a particularly large luxury saloon, but a luxury saloon nonetheless, and a Mercedes, and Mercedes cars aren't exactly known for being lightweight. This one actually has a very modest curb weight when fully tuned weight-wise. It weighs 1,386 kilos, which isn't as heavy as you might expect. Now, the power-to-weight ratio is mainly thanks to its ridiculous power, a very impressive 757 horsepower per tonne. And the performance, as I said, is the strongest in the super saloon class. The top speed is in excess of 270 miles per hour, even without NOS or slipstream. The acceleration is incredibly quick, virtually supercar levels of straight line performance. In fact, even here on Bathurst on the second straight, which all things considered isn't all that long compared to some straights on some tracks, even without using NOS, this car can get up around the 220 mile per hour region, even on this track. So the performance in a straight line is overwhelmingly quick. But, like all vehicles, it's not without its downsides and niggles, and the main downside I would say of the C63 is the brakes. Now, they're not strictly speaking bad, but they do definitely struggle to slow down a car with so much power and performance. Because at the end of the day, this car was never designed to be running 1,000 horsepower, and fitting racing brakes, although obviously improves it, they still struggle, to be honest. And although, obviously, if you tune it to a lower level, that's not so much of an issue, most people do have this car fully tuned, so that does apply to the majority of users of this car. The brakes do slow the car down, of course, but you have to brake a lot earlier than with many of its rivals, especially on a track such as here at Bathurst, where you really get up to those crazy kind of speeds very quickly thanks to the sheer power. Handling wise, it's surprisingly good. Mercedes cars are known for their big torque. They like to shred their tyres, especially in the higher end AMG models. And they're not really known for being particularly good handling cars. They're not known for being bad handling either. But Mercedes-AMG models aren't really known for their handling at all. People just don't talk about that. They talk about the power and straight line performance. I've never known anyone to buy a Mercedes for its handling. That's just never part of the equation. But as it happens, the C63 is a surprisingly good handling car, and part of that is due to the fact that although it's not heavy, it's heavy enough to have pretty well grounded steering. The handling is quite smooth, very planted thanks to the weight of the vehicle, and although of course you can make the tail step out and shred the wheels if you want to, or shred the tyres, it's overall a very good handling car, and around the track it can give supercars a great run for their money, not just in a straight line but around corners too. It's a brilliant super saloon, and strictly speaking, certainly on paper, it's the best super saloon in the game. Now, personally, I don't particularly care for this car that much. I don't dislike it, I just don't particularly like it either. I find it a bit obvious. It's what everybody buys to go for super saloons, which automatically makes me lose interest in it. I prefer the cars that people don't use. That said, it's a brilliant vehicle, immensely quick, surprisingly easy to drive, possibly one of the best handling cars with over 1,000 horsepower that you can get on the game, possibly excluding the Nissan GTR, of course. And if you haven't got one, regardless of whether you plan on using it for saloon racing or otherwise, I would recommend buying it, because its sheer performance is unarguably class leading and can give cars of higher classes, even racing machines, a fantastic battle around the track. And to top it all off, the PP, which is a reasonably high 620, it's competitive at that level, and the price is very good. It's perhaps surprisingly not the most expensive super saloon, despite being the fastest and most powerful. It costs a lot, at 104,000 credits, but compared to supercars of that same performance level, it's a lot cheaper than many of them. So overall, I would of course recommend trying this car out if you haven't done so already, and it's pretty hard to beat as an all-round super saloon. So that's it for this review. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.